Plastics take the stage at an international exhibit in Amsterdam. The ingenious alchemy of coal and oil provides the material. Ingenious machinery presses and stamps and molds the material into a wide variety of products, articles for household use, as well as tools for industry. The horizons of plastic are lengthening and strengthening, too. In the world of tomorrow, plastics will certainly call the tune.
An environmental expert and also the Secretary General of Kenya International University Association. Production of contaminants into the natural environment, which lead to adverse effects, that is to wildlife, to habitat, and also human at large. The majorly known forms of pollution are water pollution, air pollution, noise pollution, and soil pollution. Those are the most common ones. Water pollution, as I said earlier, pollution is the introduction of contaminants into the natural environment. So basically, water pollution is where you introduce these contaminants into water bodies such as lakes, rivers, seas, and oceans. Soil pollution is where you introduce these contaminants into the soil surfaces. Yes. And then air pollution is also where you introduce contaminants into the atmosphere. But noise pollution is now naturally caused form of noise, such as clubs. As long as it causes a distraction to the people around, then it is noise pollution. Plastic pollution is the accumulation of plastic objects and particles into the natural environment. Yes, which cause adverse effects to wildlife, to human at large, and also their habitats. Plastic pollution on both land, in water bodies as well, because right now it's the highest form of pollution, which is affecting both water bodies and the environment, soil at large. I can say there's not much awareness that has been created to people, because if people knew the effects of plastic, then they'd reduce the rate of using plastics and also just throwing them aimlessly. Yeah, so I bet if the government can improve their ways of creating awareness to young people, because I believe if you grow with it, then it will be easier to manage than having to go to someone who is already an adult and start telling them that now you know this is not right. So it's good to start with the young generation, train them create awareness about the plastic and its effects, because they're non-biodegradable, so it's very easy for them to stay in the environment for quite a long time. Introduce such kind of topics in the syllabus of the young generation. Yeah, they can also just conduct maybe yearly or monthly, quarterly kind of educative forums for the young people. They can as well just develop policies about plastic and implement them. Also, they can do monitoring and evaluation of how plastic is being used in the country, and is it being disposed the right way. Plastic pollution, it's one of the major things that is causing a drawback in environmental conservation. So if it can be looked at largely in the education sector, and also the government can take a strong stand in it, then it will be of great impact.
Research assistant, and I also teach environmental sustainability in IRD. Given me, like a scale to score myself. Well, now I'll score. I can score it. We are intermediate, I can say so, because if actually you look at back then, probably let's talk of 1999, when we didn't have the environmental body, when we didn't have the EMCA Act. We have the EMCA Act, Environmental Management and Coordination Act. It is 1999, and it came effective in, 1999. But during 1999, still the environment and the management of environment was not that way sufficient. because it lacked the component of enforcement. But now, in 2000, let's talk of that, we had NEMA coming in place, right? It is the act that brought NEMA in place, right? So actually, I can talk of now, currently, the management of environment. I cannot say it's so bad, but at times it boils back to the normal mwananchi. You cannot talk about like, okay, it's NEMA people to be following up, people to be responsible with the environment. No, it's about you and me on how to manage the environment, right? Yes, because they only probably do some field visit, they only do some monitoring, they only just inspect. But they inspect major factories, for example. Nobody will come at your home to do, like an inspection, right? So I can say we're not badly off, but again, the problem boils back to the normal mwananchi, right? Yeah, we are supposed to be responsible for our environment. But now the problem is at times we don't have that mentality. The moment we don't give intrinsic value to the environment to be protected, a number of things actually, and if you look at like in transport sector during lockdown, okay, it's a pandemic, it's a health hazard, but at the same time, when you dig deep on environmental side, on environmental perspective, it's like it has also created some positivity, right? Because we've seen this cut-off of some operations, there's cut-off of some flights, the minimization of movement of vehicle, because the more you move, the more mileage you cover, the more you pollute air, right? The more flights, the more we pollute our air, right? The more production, because you cannot have production without waste producing, right? When you produce also waste. There's no production, there's no development that misses to have negative impact. So I can say, yeah, on the side there's a positive side, but there's also negative side. People are not even managing well these masks. The environment is so multifaceted, so huge, right? We can start from the ocean. We can move all the way from the mainland, right? Now, plastic are non-biodegradable. Anything that is non-biodegradable, it means this thing cannot decompose. And when plastic actually get mixed with the soil, the fertility of the soil is always reduced, right? If we have excess plastic, the soil, of course, the productivity of that given soil is reduced, all right? We've seen the issues of ocean plastic issues across all the continent. We've seen sharks, we've seen whales consuming plastic, then of course we lose biodiversity. Still the same plastic that are consumed by this animal, then mistakenly in the name of this food, but it's not food, right? Then in the long run, we end up losing some aquatic life. So actually it's broad, and actually when you also, if plastic are banned, they release some of course CO2 is going to be CO2 is going to be released, carbon monoxide is going to be released, some CFCs are also going to be released, and the problem of CFCs with global warming, CFCs with the ozone. Sincerely speaking, it has done much. Because if we look at the regulations that have been put in place for the purpose of management of environment, there are quite a array of them. All the sources of pollution, let's talk of water pollution, let's talk of air pollution, let's talk of what? Soil pollution. All of these, they have specific regulation. We have air quality regulation of 2014, right? It is there. We have water quality regulation of 2006. We have waste management regulation of 2006. We have EIA environmental impact assessment of 2003. All these regulations are there actually to ensure that the environment is well managed. Now, the problem is it becomes to individual. As I said, when we have a company, for example, you're running a company, you probably are an environmentalist in that given company, or even you are the MD of that given company, but the company is polluting the environment, right? Meaning you don't want to comply with the set regulations, because the regulations are there to be obeyed so that, environment is what? is well managed. But now in the process, most of the people, they're working behind the garden, they're working behind the closed doors. They don't want actually to comply. You know, they want to make profit, but they don't want to pay, because to get licenses, at times you have to pay for you to get the licenses, right? For example, if it is effluent, for example, if you have a company and this company is discharging waste into the stream, right? Now, most companies don't have an effluent discharge license. There is need for effluent discharge license, right? And the effluent discharge license emanates from Water Quality Regulation of 2006. So you see, each and every regulation, it has specific licenses for the purpose of what? Of managing the environment. Now, waste discharge license is specifically for aquatic pollution. Now we have air emission license. This is specifically for air pollution. So all these licenses are there. The problem is now us and probably maybe the private sector, but the government has put measures. Measures are there, regulations are there in place, and any regulation is the law of the land. You're supposed to obey the law of the land. But a number of people are actually, probably at times people, they lack knowledge. Maybe they don't know that we have certain regulations that governs that. But as government itself, it has tried. Then maybe the problem of enforcement. At times they lack enforcement arm. Because when you look at NEMA, because NEMA is mandated actually to take care of the environment within the republic. But now if you look at the number of officers that NEMA has, it's minimal, all right? Per county, NEMA has around 2 officers. Per county, 2 officers, and other counties are very huge. So it's a challenge, and these people are supposed to enforce. So it becomes a challenge. And there's a disconnect between now NEMA and the Ministry of Interior. But if we could have like a well-connected path between NEMA and the Ministry of Interior, then definitely the police officers and these even county government field officers could help NEMA in terms of what? Now enforcing the regulations and the laws that are set forth.